Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Chris.
I'm Tobias.
And I'm Jonathan.
And we want to introduce y'all to Lit Talk, an all-new interactive podcast where you can be inspired to live your truth. Lit Talk is a place for the boys, the girls, the girls, the bush queens, and the trade to come connect and learn something new about themselves and the community they represent. Today, we're going to talk about why HIV. Our conversations are going to go public health. We're also going to talk about real life, a little bit of art, and a little bit of culture. But today, we're going to start with debates of what we're here and what our funders want to see is why HIV. So I'm going to ask my fellas, why HIV?
Well, we're right into it. To be transparent with you, why not HIV? I feel like HIV affects every face, every space. It does not have one gender, one color. To be honest, we all are impacted by HIV. You may not have HIV, but I guarantee you may know somebody who has HIV. So why not have the conversation sooner than later?
Mm-hmm. How about you, Tobias?
Yeah, I agree with him a lot. In addition to what he said, the Black community in general is one of the highly impacted communities that HIV affects. And like he said, a lot of people don't realize that it does affect you directly. A lot of people that you see on a daily may be affected in some way, even if it's not them directly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes spaces like this so important, is because that we can have these conversations about things that historically have been taboo, and we can normalize it. Something that you said that hit me is that a lot of times within the Black community, we don't talk about HIV. So to have three of us who represent different populations of the Black queer community, who have different levels of influence to talk about that, maybe we can normalize things a bit different. We know that we all work in the field, but tell the viewers, what do you do each and every day to make a change forward, to make a step forward in HIV prevention?
For me, so I do all things community engagement. So basically, I'm just kind of like a liaison between a county, our subrecipients, which are agencies that we fund that provide HIV-related services, and the community. So I'm just making sure that I'm hearing from the agencies, I'm hearing from the community, the yay or nay, and just trying to find out ways to alleviate any barriers, stigmas, and any reasons as to why an individual living with HIV won't be holistically taken care of.
And for me, I work on the health services side. So I focus on more making sure people have access for treatment for HIV as well as prevention. And I think one of the biggest things in my job, or one of the biggest impacts of HIV prevention, is education and educating the Black community of how it affects them and how they can prevent from acquiring HIV.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And y'all may know me as Chris your hero, but you can find me on social media as Dr. Do Good, your favorite doctor, and giving you a daily do good. And baby, I do it all. I'm going to test you, I'm going to educate you, I'm going to engage you, I'm going to social network you, I'm going to link you, I'm going to mentor you, I'm going to give you some advice, and I'm going to also give you a shot, all right? So as you can see, we got a wealth of experience talking about things that we are impacted by us and impacted by the community that we represent each and every day. My next question to y'all is that,
well, for you, why HIV?
for me?
Yeah, why? Yeah.
Me? Y'all want to LIYT? You know what? Honestly, I think HIV kind of saved my life. And I know, like, when you hear HIV, you wouldn't think that that's synonymous with that. Mm-hmm. So, like, I was a victim of sexual assault when I was in college. I was getting ready to graduate college, and I wanted to be a physician. And so I went to a party. Met the wrong person, got drugged, and woke up in a Motel 6. Around 4 weeks later, I got like real sick. Mm-hmm. I thought I had like a flu, or I had caught a cold or something. And so I remember this day like it was yesterday. And so I was preparing for the first outdoor track meet of the season because I ran track in college. And I wasn't feeling good. So I didn't know if I was going to run. I didn't know if I was going to make the meet. So my mom was like, well, boy, you need to go to the doctor, see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I told her how I was feeling, I was like, nah, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. I'm going to get better. And I ended up getting better. But I had already made the appointment. And so I went. And so I went to the doctor on campus, and they had did a rapid test. And they told me that I was positive. And my world kind of halted in the moment. I went through like a mild depression, stopped going to class, didn't even feel like running, and I almost didn't graduate. And when I did graduate, I moved from Memphis to Dallas, trying to run away from everything, trying to really forget everything.
Yeah.
And the job that I had got was at UT Southwestern. And at the time, I was like, okay, I can work at UT, make some connections, go to med school because I wanted to be a plastic surgeon. And little did I know the job that I was going to be in was going to be in HIV research, collecting data for the National HIV Behavior Surveillance. And so like through me collecting that data and interviewing so many people across Dallas County and hearing their stories about how they have sex, who they have sex with, and them telling me their statuses, that kind of empowered me to take control over what was going on in my body and say, you know what, maybe I can make something of it. Maybe I can say that I don't have to live with HIV. I can advocate and say HIV lives with me. And so then from there, I went back and got my master's in public health and started to do some really great work, met some amazing people. And the rest is history.
Okay.
So for me, HIV kind of saved my life.
So I want to ask this question, but I want somebody to remind me that we ask this and let this be the last question we end on this note. But I do want to know, towards the end of this, what would you say to an individual who's newly diagnosed in this, abused population? Like, what words of encouragement would you give an individual? We're gonna save it. I want to save it because I feel like that's a very impactful thing to end on.
You know what? For those of you all in the audience, I want y'all to type in the comments or send us a message telling us, what would you tell somebody if you had a friend, a family member, a brother, a sister, a mom, a cousin, or an uncle, and they told you that they were newly diagnosed with HIV? What would you tell them? Share with us what would you say, and we'll give y'all our response at the end. How about that?
That's cool. I like that.
That works for it. So as far as working getting HIV, what makes you continue to work in the field?
You can talk on that first.
At this point, I don't know. I don't know why I'm here. I at this point, you really got to be. I feel like anybody doing this work is pretty delusional, because you don't get paid enough. Let me tell you, you're not getting paid what you're putting in. With the work you're putting in, you're not getting paid enough.
Right.
Agreed.
How real can we be? Okay,
I'm
gonna be real, but I'm gonna keep it nice. I'm gonna keep it nasty nice. You're trying to save a community who feels they don't need saving.
Yeah.
So a lot of the work that you're doing, sometimes you feel like you're not getting enough out of it, on top of not getting paid. So you really have to enjoy the work that you're doing. You really have to approach this work with empathy, to enjoy the work. Like, this work is not for everybody. It's not. And you see it when people burn out in the way they burn out, in the way that they leave these spaces. Like, the work is not for everybody, and it's okay. So I don't know why. Maybe it's the empathy piece. Maybe it's the caring piece, but I can't give you it.
No, I definitely agree, because this work can be very degrading. Not degrading in that sense, but the people you serve can sometimes make you feel degraded the way they speak to you, even when you're trying to help them. And that you come across that a lot of times when you're serving low-income communities. Yeah. So I think that's probably the hardest struggle I have is sometimes keeping a smile on your face when somebody's intentionally trying to beat you down while you're trying to help them. So I get what you're saying. Yeah. And it's not enough pay to be doing that every day. But I do feel like I've seen the difference that my work has done, particularly that keeps me motivated to do it.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
When you asked that question, the first thought that came into my mind was, I'm still here.
It's a struggle.
I've never been asked, like, why am I still here? But I think, realistically, I'm still here because there's work that needs to be done. I think that who I am was that I was uniquely designed to do the work that I do in the way that I do it, because I don't do it like anybody else.
Yeah.
And I feel like, being able to find myself within this work, I've been able to develop a niche that has allowed me to, as you say, be impactful in the lives of so many other people. Like, I'll get a message on Facebook and someone will say, thank you. I appreciate you for doing what you do. Because you told me to come get tested, I got tested. Or because you reposted something, I reposted it and it was impacting me. And so for me, that means the world. I think that we live in a system that was not built for people who look like us or love the way that we love. And I can say that I'm privileged enough to know that if I can continue to do this work, I can be in a position to change the system. I have always lived by the principle of I'm going to play by the rules until I get into a space where I can change the rules, And HIV, this workforce, has been a warehouse that has given me the exposure, has given me the experience and the connection to reach the folk in positions of power and say, hey, you cannot do that. What you're doing is wrong. How can we do that? How can we do something different? And the thing that keeps me here is the autonomy that I have to make it work and make it make sense for me and those folks like me.
Okay.
Can we get like the calling? Can we get like cameraman? Can you get like a word thing like the calling? And then like fade back into the background. Let me tell y'all something. The cameraman, I feel like he can handle that. Like y'all can't see him, but the gorilla y'all are trying to have 100 men go fight. I feel like he can lift that gorilla by himself. So I feel like he can bring in the calling. That'll probably be a simple task for
100 men
him.
versus our cameraman?
100 men versus the cameraman. The calling. I think for me, in terms of the calling, it's so interesting. Being very transparent. I wanted to start in this career because I remember I was doing the work before I was getting paid to do it. I had some people who worked in the field and who I would test with and stuff like that. And I was bringing people. I was bringing friends to my other friends who did testing. And so eventually I was just like, wait a minute, I really could do this work. And I applied at AHF. And AHF at that time told me like, oh, you got to have experience. They wanted me to be driving vans around with the out of the closet stuff. And it's no shade. I get it. I don't have experience. But again, the calling, right? I want to see that somewhere come up. AP reached out and gave me a chance. And so it was just only up from there. So I think that when it comes to the calling and the work, sometimes we don't choose it and it chooses us. And I feel like that's why we're all in this space doing the work.
I completely agree because I was in healthcare before I was in public health. And one of our old directors reached out to me probably about 4 times trying to get me to come to AP specifically. And I kept saying, no. But when I did finally come, it did feel like one of those situations where I was supposed to be here, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with it more than healthcare, which I wasn't expecting. And I thought it was going to be something temporary, but long term, I do feel like this is like the work I'm supposed to do.
You take me back to the Bible verse. Many are called, but few are chosen. And like when we talk about like the HIV public health infrastructure, there's a lot of people who have tapped into this work, who have did this work, but to stay in this work, you really have to be chosen, and there's a level of grace that you have to have when navigating this space. And so in y'all being able to navigate this space, how has it been for y'all serving a community that you also are a part of?
That was weird at first. I didn't like it. I didn't like the aspect of not necessarily having to teach people about sex, but I didn't like the aspect of having to the outreach aspect of having to blindly walk up to somebody who you may have just talked to online or you may have been previously dating or whatever the case may be. So it was very awkward for me at first. But after I kind of, especially coming to a new city where I didn't know anybody, I didn't want to build that. I didn't want to be that guy, the condom guy or the sex guy. So it was hard.
That's real. That's real. Yeah, that's real.
It's hard to build your own brand outside of the brand of the work you do when they're both intertwined in the same community.
That's good.
Yeah.
How about you?
I want to say that I appreciate the community for allowing me to be me in the space. Like, in the Dallas spaces, like I feel like my friends in the community were very receptive of the work that I was doing. And when they saw me testing, they were like, oh, you doing testing? Oh, well, test me. Like they were so open to it. So I think that was pretty dope. And the fact that I was known on social media, or I am kind of known on social media and stuff like that, it wasn't like a deterrent, like, oh, like I'm nervous. Like people would see me and be like, oh, like you can test me. So I really felt like my community, or like Dallas, Fort Worth, like it really showed out in that regard. And I was grateful for that. Like I really am grateful that community gave me the opportunity to be who I am today.
See, I'm gonna play devil's advocate because I believe that like it's also like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, true.
I think that
And they always like that, right?
Being
Yeah.
part of a community that you work within works great for testing numbers. It works great for visibility. It works great for making those connections and building rapport. But on the other side, what about when people know you and they are afraid to come in and get tested because they are fearful about you knowing their status? Or even you, like how you navigate having sex with other people, and like God forbid, you got something going on and it get back at you that gave somebody else something, and you're held accountable at a higher standing when you're just a person. You know what I'm saying? That deserves a given level of grace. So like, for those of y'all out there who don't know, it's really hard to work in HIV and public health as a Black queer man servicing other Black queer men, because on one aspect you view it as leaders and you can't make mistakes, and when you do, you're held to the fire. But on the other side, it's like sometimes it works because you are a part of the communities that we want to reach. So, you know, I think that in this role, I have to learn how to give myself grace and know that I can't be perfect and know that I can't solve all the solutions. Because when I thought I did and something happened to me, I ended up going into a depression and wanted to leave the work, you know?
That's real.
So for those of you all who are looking to get into the work or that are in the work, I wanted to ask that question so they can give you advice on how they've been able to navigate it, to inspire you all to navigate this space with some tenacity, and also give yourself grace as you continue to do this work or approach it.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
I would say for anybody that's trying to get into this space, volunteer first, because that'll kind of tell you if you like it, but if you don't have that passion with the volunteer, you're not going to have that passion when you're actually in the workforce.
That's true. And I think that, you know, we done talked a lot about working in this space and talked about our own experiences, but let's give the people something. So like, you know, a lot of people don't know how to prevent HIV. What are some ways or what are some methods that people can use to prevent HIV?
Well, the most effective is PrEP. We offer PrEP services as well. Come find us anytime, 1705 MLK Boulevard. But yes, the most effective is PrEP. 99.9% accuracy. If you're taking PrEP every day, you can't acquire HIV. Of course, there's other methods, condoms, making sure you're using lubricant that also lower your chances, as well as, I say always observe. Not speaking of just HIV, but any STDs. Always observe where you're touching, looking, sticking, whatever you're doing. It'll tell you a lot of information before you even have sex.
So Tobias just gave us a textbook answer on how to prevent HIV. So Jonathan, I know that people probably want to know what you do to prevent HIV.
So typically, what I like to do is dig into my toolkit, and like Tobias mentioned, PrEP is one way. Lube, keep that barrier nice and protected and together. But also, you know, I ask my I not only do I test, but I ask my partners what's the T, right? And I let them know, like, hey, like, if you're HIV positive, that's cool. I've dated people who, I'm HIV negative, and I've dated people who are HIV positive. I'm a firm believer in U equals U. And like I said, that's my toolkit, and it works for me. It works really well. Really well.
I love that.
Yeah.
So now that XXX time is over, because he sounded like he was narrating a flick. Let me
I'm kind of feeling this mic. Can I take this home with me? I like this mic. Let me put my voice on.
A little breakdown. So U equals U means undetectable equals untransmittable, meaning that if you are living with HIV and you are on your treatment and you take your treatment as recommended by your physician, you can reach an undetectable viral load, meaning that you cannot transmit the virus to anybody else through sexual encounters. So that means that the virus is so small, the amount of the virus in your system is so small that it cannot leave and be spread to no one else. And like, that's a big mantra in public health, especially for those of us who are living with HIV, because TAS, or treatment as a prevention, is another preventative method. Because as long as I'm taking my medication daily or in my bi-monthly injection, shout out to ViiV Healthcare, I know that I'm good, and I can engage with sex with people with power. There can be power in my sex, because I know that you can't get nothing from me. You can't get what I got, because I'm doing what I got to do to take care of myself.
And you know, it's so interesting too. Like, even with me, I've dated people who were living with HIV. Like, I feel more protected dating somebody HIV positive than someone who isn't. Like, I would be completely, like, to me, I feel better dating somebody.
Well, statistically, you are safer having sex with someone who is virally suppressed, living with HIV, than you are with somebody who's not living with HIV and does not get tested. Because if you are on HIV medication, and live with HIV and you are validly suppressed, that means that you are medically adherent and you are attending your medical appointments at routine intervals. For some folk, it's 3 months. For people like me, if you're a bad girl, it's every 6. but typically when you go into your physician's office for your appointments and visits, you get more than just your labs. You STI testing, they check your blood and kidney and renal function and all those things, so you get a holistic picture of what your health looks like. Another thing that's really important is education. It's so important to be a healthy sexual. So before you have sex with people, be willing to communicate about when was the last time that you got tested?
Yeah.
Or do you want to get tested with me, or make testing sexy? And for those folk who like to find a sneaky link and they booze and they bays and they situationships on Grindr, Scrub, BGC, Sniffies, Jacked, Blowers, Twitter, Instagram, or in your baby daddy DMs, be willing to have these conversations too, because sex is a natural part of life, and realistically, we all doing it.
So,
And
go ahead.
being 100% transparent, most people, or the highest risk age group, they don't use condoms, especially gay men. The majority of gay men don't use condoms, which I'm not knocking it. I don't use condoms either, just
Me
feel
either.
real.
I don't.
However, but if you're not using condoms, just try to practice other preventative methods. If you're somebody who can't take pills every day, there's injections available, 1 injection every 2 months. There's multiple ways to prevent from acquiring HIV that you can practice. So don't just think because you're someone who can't take pills daily that there's not other practices out there for you.
Like I said, I think one of the most important pieces that we keep reiterating and reinforcing is that it's the importance of education. You got to be able to educate yourself. You got to be able to educate your community. But the way that you do that is that you got to get outside of your own front yard and be willing to get to know somebody new and do your own research. HIV is something that does not have to be scary. Yes, it impacts your life severely if you are living with HIV, but it's something that you shouldn't have to run away from. It's something that you shouldn't be willing to talk about, because we can only end HIV by starting to have more conversations like this and create spaces where people feel comfortable. In conclusion, we talked about so much today. You learned more about us. You know, we talked about the podcast, and we gave y'all some gems that y'all can take home to do some more research.
And not only that, if you're or for the Black community, be aware that if you're going to offices that don't service you, there's been studies done that most Caucasian doctors' offices don't offer PrEP services to Black people. So advocate for yourself. Know what's available. Do your own research. Call your health department. Tell them you want PrEP. Every state should have options for free PrEP services. So don't feel like if you don't have health insurance or you don't have the money to pay for the medication that you can't get it. There should be other avenues to get PrEP.
And before we end, I want to go back to Jonathan's question that he had earlier, is that what would you tell someone if they told you that they were living with HIV? What would your response be?
Oh, so we asking me too. So if someone was to tell me, I would tell them this is the beginning, like, of life. And I think that sometimes, typically, when people find out their status, they're HIV positive, I think it's the end. No, it's the beginning. And going back to Chris's point, Chris started to live, like, Chris realized, like, this was his calling, and that was the initiation. And so I see time and time again. I also work with a CAP, a consumer advisory board called Hit HIV, and it's a comprised group of individuals living with HIV, and these people are incredible. And I talk to these individuals, and they tell us time and time again how HIV saved their life. Like, the work that they're doing, it saved their life. So I would just tell an individual, like, it's the beginning, and the best is yet to come.
For me, I think from my experience of delivering a new diagnosis to people, the biggest thing that they fear is that they're going to die. So I just kind of say exactly what he said, just rephrase different. Of your life's not over, you're going to be okay. I think probably the 80s and the 90s, or not probably, it did build a stigma around HIV that as soon as you find out you have it, your life is pretty much over. But medicine isn't there anymore. And it's now manageable, just like diabetes or any other chronic illness. You'll be perfectly fine. And I just try to reassure people.
I think to add to that, I always tell people, you have a future, and every superhero has war wounds. This is nothing different. Keep moving, keep living. You got it. And now that you've heard what we had to say, we want to hear what you got to say. So, what would you say if somebody told you that they were living with HIV? Remember, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and visit us at aboundingprosperity.org online or on our socials at Abounding Prosperity. Once again, I'm Chris.
I'm Tobias.
And I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Lit Talk.
Thank you for tuning in.
Peace.